Hello everyone and welcome back to that one playthrough of Kerbal's Space Program. I am Kyle once again, and you join us checking out what is technically called the Brightwood 1. It is our little biome scanning satellite. I couldn't remember the name of it there for a second, but that's okay. Yeah, this little guy has been orbiting for quite some time now, and it should be just about done, I believe. We can go ahead and check, and yes, look at this beautiful, gorgeous looking biome scan we've got. We can bring up the bigger map. Might be a better little view. There are a few little tiny strips here I noticed that aren't completely finished, so I think we're at where's the percentage complete? Percentage complete 96.4%, so not quite completely done. However, we should be able to potentially still review the data and send some. So there's still a little bit left. We'll come back for that a little bit later, but for now, I'm going to go ahead and transmit this, and I hopefully have enough, no, we did not have enough power to do that, and so it will probably reset now. Not to worry, we'll just make sure that this can do a partial. Yep, there is our Kerbal alarm clock going off, telling us to transmit the data here. Let's try that one more time. We'll speed up time as well, because we need to make sure we're charging during this whole time frame. And I think we got it. Okay, and with that, this is the big kicker. We now have enough science to go do the magic we've been waiting to go do for the last couple of episodes. Alright, so in the R&D lab, we are looking for the Airstream Protective Shell 1.25 meter. We're going to go ahead and research that, and ooh, there's actually more wings we can get off of that too. Oh, we can get the actual plane swept wings and some of the other better winglets. This is good. It's only one science. No, that's really good, because we're going to need a lot of that for making some improved planes not too far in the future. And then something else on here, actually, medium re-entry pods is only 45 science, and I have 55. I don't think anything else is that low. Doesn't look like it. Definitely not. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this as well. That'll give us the P re-entry module, and the P is actually pretty good because it has room for 2 Kerbals in it as opposed to the 1 we currently have room for. And one thing comparing the Onion and the P is the Onion has a mass of 0.6772. The P, the new one here that holds 2 Kerbals, has a mass of 1.334. So it's actually more than double the mass in terms of overall payload that's got to go into space. Alright, and then we have the Brightwood 2 Lunar Orbital Insertion Maneuver that we've got coming up in 2 days, 9 hours, and I'm pretty much going to go ahead and fast forward to that because we also have to wait on the tech that we have been researching. This will all take some time, obviously. The big one is going to be the aviation section. That's the one that has that increased fairing size. So even though it's going to take 22 days, during that time frame we've got this other maneuver we need to do, so we're going to go ahead and go into the tracking station, and in here, I believe it's technically this one. It's still labeled as a Brightwood Heavy. We're going to reorient this a little bit so we have some better solar panel exposure, just to be safe. Alright, so this is technically called the Brightwood 2 is what I'm calling it in my head. I think it is still labeled as the Brightwood Heavy in the actual name to the vehicle. Yeah, because that's what the launch vehicle was. We're going to call this Brightwood 2 because the Brightwood 1 is doing the multispectral scan of Kerbin. The Brightwood 2 can do the multispectral scan of the moon. And then we have a heavy launch vehicle named the Brightwood Heavy that is just named after these lovely 2 little satellites. Because that's where it was born. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and fast forward here all the way to the point where we enter into... It'll take us some time to get there, but that's okay. Oh, it says... Are we still going to have an encounter? Oh, there we go, okay. Freaked out for a second. I thought I wasn't going to get my encounter. Okay, and then what I'll do is let's go ahead and just get rid of... We'll get rid of that alarm clock because we know what we're going to do. We're going to focus on... No, not the Edison. I want to focus on the moon. Thank you. I'm going to grab a maneuver node here. And we want this to be just pretty circular. That's all it needs to do. Perfect. And then we'll go ahead and fast forward to that point. 31-second burn in approximately 5 hours. We'll get there pretty quick. Hopefully you don't fly past it. Oh, getting close, getting close. Okay, minute away. Let's go ahead and make sure we're all lined up here for this. Wouldn't want to miss it, fly past it like I've done so many times before. And then I'm assuming All of these are at full power. Yeah, I didn't change the thrust on those at all. That's good. We'll speed up one more time. I'm going to start this burn at about the 15 to 16 second mark. Nice and easy, like has been done so many times before. Ready and mark. And we have officially entered lunar orbit. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. And this is going to be a slightly higher orbit than the altimetry scanner one, which it should be fine. I think it's... I don't know what the optimal height is necessarily. Lined it up as close to our maneuver node as we had it before. Okay, and then let's orient this so that it's in a way that our solar panels will get the best exposure. Okay, and I'm pretty sure just like it was on Kerbin, we're only gonna get results when the sun is showing on that side of the moon that it is scanning. And start the scan. I'm gonna speed this up. Looks like we're headed north at the moment, so we're on the dark side, not gonna get any results. Yeah, not getting any results because we're on the dark side. Let's see if we start to pick stuff up. Yep, there it is. We've got a little bit of the north pole of the moon. Oh, it's a good, nice wide band too that we're scanning, it looks like. But it shouldn't take too many orbits. Orbiting a little slow, but again, shouldn't be too much of an issue. Awesome. Alright, well, now that that is underway, we'll collect some science on it relatively shortly. Again, we're going to go back to the dark side and not get any data, so we'll let this kind of continue on its own. Not sure how long it's necessarily going to take, but we will get a confirmation that the contract is complete when that does eventually happen. Alright, and then if we actually just go ahead and warp to the point where aviation research is done, we will actually see here, we just completed the contract for that biome scan. It is 75% done, which is all that's required for the contract. So obviously we got the contract completed, there's the easy cache for that. I'm going to let it keep scanning though, because I want to see if we can get it just as close to 100% as possible. That way we get the full benefit, full value of that science. Alright, and then because of the power that's associated with our Brightwood Heavy, what I've actually done is I've extended the fuel tank on the second stage, and then I could actually change the thrust limiter that we already set on the second stage, so that I could still keep its thrust around 2 for the base portion of the stage. I might increase it even more, just because we're going to be putting quite a bit of mass on here, because we're not going to put the P re-entry module on. I don't want to put 2 Kerbals in yet. I want to do pure proof of concept. We're going to actually put our first Kerbal into orbit. We're going to do it. We're going to do it today. It's going to happen. I'll beat my head against this wall until I die if I need to. So first things first, we will grab our brand spanking new sexy Aerostream protective shell. So we got this brand new fairing. Now I'm going to try and keep the main module, the orbiter, as light as possible, meaning that I kind of want this second stage to actually be the full-blown stage that gets to orbit. So again, the actual engine that's going to be on this is going to be very minor. Add a decoupler, we'll add that engine, and we'll be able to keep an eye on our delta V here. If we can keep this above 6,000, we should be pretty dang safe. Get rid of our shroud on this, and I'm gonna add, instead of the ants, or sorry, the spiders like I've done previously, I'm gonna just go full-blown twitches on this. I just feel like it's gonna be better to go with that extra power. Extra power and still make sure we got lots of gimbal control. But what I'm actually gonna do to make sure that I get more of the effectiveness out of the primary vacuum engine is I'm gonna bring thrust on these down to 50%. I'm gonna bring gimbal down to about the same too. We still have the gimbal control, but we're not wasting as much fuel on the slightly less efficient twitch. Those have a vacuum ISP of 290 versus the Pug, which has a vacuum ISP of 330, so it's a pretty substantial difference. Okay, and I reorganized all the stages here, so they should be accurate now. Again, we can keep this really small. I would still like a good amount of science, so we're going to put the materials study bay, service bay as well, so we can put some extra stuff in here. Oh, I can close it off, open it slightly, or I can have it completely open. Well, that's neat. Then I think above this is pretty much just the main unit. Okay, well, let's give us a good amount of electrical. There we go, we can stack 3, that's perfect. Alright, I cleaned up the staging a little bit again, just because it gave me some weird readouts, but now we're back on track to being what appears to be accurate. Alright, we're gonna go ahead and put parachutes on the side of this again. I'm gonna double up. Last time I only had 1, and I would like to be a little bit more cautious, some additional redundancy this time. I'm gonna position those both off center. And for those of you who aren't quite sure how I did the launch escape system last time, it's a pretty easy thing to do. So I'm going to put a decoupler on top here. Now the thing to do is to kind of flip your decoupler upside down. So you'll notice the arrow here is pointing down. That means everything above, quote unquote, above where the arrow is pointing will leave the decoupler, meaning this is going to stay attached to whatever's on top of it at the moment. Okay, now depending on what mods you might have installed, your launch escape system might look different like mine does, but you'll see here it's a pretty simple little unit that just goes right on top like so. Now, pretty easy to actually put together. The real kicker is how you create it in terms of your action groups. So if you go into your action groups, easiest one to do is select the one that says abort. Okay, so we have abort selected. We're going to hit launch escape system. We're going to make sure that we make it so that we activate the engines. The other thing we want to make sure happens during the abort sequence is our control module is going to also decouple. Our fairing is going to deploy. And so basically what's going to happen is if we hit the abort sequence, which in KSP is just the backspace button, what'll happen is our fairing will explode, our command module will detach from the rocket, and those launch escape rockets, those motors will fire up, pulling our module away from the rest of the rocket. Pretty simple. The other thing we want to make sure is set up in our staging is at a certain point after we probably, I would say after the fairing gets deployed, we could probably get rid of the launch escape system as well. So right here our fairing gets deployed. So what we'll do is we'll let the launch escape system, which is this one, fire next, as well as the decoupler that it's attached to, which is this one it looks like. We'll put those two on the same stage. So that way, when we get to that point in the rocket, we're going to be high enough altitude. We'll deploy our side boosters. We get high enough again. We'll deploy our fairing, and then we'll ditch the launch escape system, because by that point, we'll have plenty of time to react if anything does go wrong. Alright, so we have 6,600 delta V in total, which should be plenty for this to get to orbit, but I have said those crazy words in the past. Alright, so this will also be a good little test function for this overall fairing, which we're going to utilize for those probe to moon missions we talked about in the previous episode as well. Just realized I forgot to put a Kerbal engineer on here. I'm going to make sure we apply one of these just, I think, on the inside of our little cargo bay. That way we have some readouts as we're launching this. Here stands the Adventurer 1, the rocket that will take us to a place we have not been before. At least not where we have sent a living being, not just to space, to a point in space where they can stay in space and do spacey things, whether that be science in space, flying around in space. Orbiting is the goal here today, and we will not leave until we succeed. And that means we need somebody dedicated, somebody willing to go the extra mile, somebody who will not back down from a challenge. Who will be this brave individual to step forward? Wait, what's that? What? Anybody see that out there? Like an elf? What? Like that direction way back there by the EAB kinda? What is that? Valentina? Is it you? Oh my gosh. I think we found our brave volunteer.
This is KSC Command Deck checking in. All stations give status check. Fuel systems are nominal. Navigation confirming. Pointy end is up, flamey end is down. Life support systems are active, awaiting crew arrival. Adventure 1 Command, please confirm radio signal one last time. Cross-check and I'll call. Ventura 1 checking in. Confirming all systems nominal. You are go for launch in T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. We have liftoff confirmed. Ventura 1 has cleared the tower. Godspeed. All systems nominal from flight deck. Beginning gravity turn confirmed. Crew ascends status check 1. A1 command, it's a bumpy ride. Stand by for side booster playback 10 seconds from mark. And mark. Booster separation confirmed. All main engine systems are nominal. Navigation is showing this is a near perfect ascent. Good job, everybody. Let's keep up the work. Prepare for fairing separation. Oh my god, it's beautiful. We have Mako. Launch escape system has aborted as well. All systems continue to be nominal. Stage separation complete. Stand by for Seiko. Commencing cargo bay protocol. And solar panels are deployed. Confirmed. Prepare for second engine full throttle up.
And with that, a massive congratulations to all the Kerbals across Kerbin. The first one of their own kind is in a full, complete, stable orbit around the planet they call home. With that being done, that was a minor little accomplishment more for myself. I knew I could do it. Obviously, we had the vehicles to do so. It was just getting a launch vehicle large enough to do it. And there's actually quite a bit left in this tank. Now, what I'm curious to actually find out is our periapsis is on the other side. That's the lowest point. I want to go to the periapsis and I want to burn again. I would like to see if we can raise our apoapsis. The reason I want to do that is because it will actually allow us to potentially get higher orbit Kerbin science. I don't know how high I'll be able to go with the delta V I have. Let's just do a little test here. We have about 1,000 delta V, which is quite a bit. Yeah, that's way more than enough. All I want to do is get it above 800 kilometers is all I need. If we take it to 1,000 kilometers, that's fine. It'll be the furthest away any Kerbal has ever gone, and we'll be able to gather high orbital science from that. Because right now we can get a materials study bay down here, and this will actively get us 4.4, which is really not that much. I'm going to reset it, see if we can get more for it at the higher altitude. What I would like to also do while our friend Valentina is here, she's going to do the first ever EVA, which should give us a milestone. Unfortunately, docked a little bit, because again, it is a milestone that does not have to do with the moon, but it is the first spacewalk nonetheless. We get science and the reputation out of that, which is spectacular. And then the other thing we're going to do is an actual EVA report. We're going to have Valentina go ahead and hold on to that. She's going to then board. And then I don't have an antenna on here, but it's not that big a deal because we are going to be recovering everything. Turn the lights on. We'll actually open up the little viewing interior overlay so we can see Valentina inside of the cockpit there, looking very nice. I'm sure she's got lots of other experiments that the R&D laboratory wants her to fulfill. So while she's working on all that exciting stuff, we're going to go ahead and move up to our maneuver node, and we're going to try and burn up to a higher altitude even still. This is pretty fun for me. I feel like this is kind of similar to a lot of actual real space exploration milestones that existed throughout history. We did a suborbital hop, which would have been kind of the same as the initial Mercury capsules. Those eventually did get into orbit, obviously. And then later on, the Gemini, which had 2 people aboard, started doing more orbital flights, and as a result started to do a lot more testing to help prepare for the upcoming Apollo program in the same decade. Oh, we're going too far. We're going to line up with our maneuver node here to do this burn out to our higher altitude, but this is kind of what some of those initial early flights did for experiment, was they just wanted to see how far they could take space flight within the realm that they kind of knew about it. Oh, I don't have SAS on, that's why this is so difficult. So right now we're just kind of doing experiments to see what happens, how far we can take our little vehicle. And nice easy burn out to that point. A little bit further, a little bit further. There, we're gonna hit 1,000 kilometers there. Let's go ahead and fast forward until we get back out to the point where we're in the sunlight. We're gonna get a nice sweet sunrise here. Currently still got about another 200 plus kilometers to go. One other thing that we're going to be wanting to pay attention to sooner rather than later is TAC life support, which is the life support mod that I'm utilizing. Now currently on this vehicle I have well over a day of life support. But with that in mind, we want to start paying attention to kind of what vehicles are capable of staying out long duration. So right now Valentina can stay for quite a while, and I'm going to try and see if I can get her to stay for at least a day in orbit. It doesn't really give us anything extra as far as milestones, but it would be a neat little longevity stay and test, because eventually when we start to take things to the moon, for example, for our first Mooner missions involving manned craft, we need to make sure that we will be able to have Kerbal survive that long. Alright, we are at the necessary altitude. Let's go ahead and conduct this materials study. And yeah, 6.6, so that's a little bit more science than we would have gotten at low altitude. We're going to do another EVA. Now, Valentina's going to perform another little experiment here, and that is she's going to use the first maneuvering of her little jetpack. First, Kerbal to do an untethered spacewalk. She's going to move on in toward the materials study. Just going to collect the data, remove that. She cannot restore it, of course, because she is not a scientist, but we have removed it, so we can put it onto the main capsule. Go ahead and come on in here and board. Oh, grab onto it. There we go. Valentina's back on board with that additional science materials now. What I should have checked, actually, is on the EVA. Can we do a high orbital EVA? Let's see. In space, high over Kerbin, we can. Perfect. Let's go ahead and retain that. We're going to board again, just because every little bit is going to help. All right, and as we said, we've got well over a day's worth of life support. So we're going to try and just let Valentina enjoy some time up here. Gonna kind of let the capsule just go in a free spin here. Admire this, the planet below. Valentina is the first Kerbal to experience this wonder and awe-dropping experience. Alright, I'm gonna set a manual timer here for just 1 day. We're just gonna give her 1 day. Not 1 day, 5 minutes, just 1 full day. Okay, Valentina, Godspeed. Have some fun up there. Don't forget us. Do this for science. See how long you can stay up there orbiting the wonderful, amazing blue planet below. And we'll be back to visit you in a little bit when it's time to return home. Okay, so we've sent our first Kerbal into space. That is completed. We also know that we're trying to work towards probes to actually land on the moon. We need to send it to at least 3 different biomes to complete one of the contracts that we currently have. But something else that has come up that's going to be needed to do for the Research Bodies mod is we need to send a telescope into space so that we can actually research where the planets are, because we're not allowed to send probes or Kerbals to them until we know they exist, and that is done through this telescope. And that is currently hidden behind the space exploration, which is currently something we don't have researched. So this is going to have to be the next major task that we are working towards once we get some science input. The other thing I'd like to do once we get some more cash flow is to actually upgrade the administration building, because the more projects we can have going on there, we're going to get a lot more benefits in terms of all the other additional money, additional reputation, additional science that we can do through certain contracts. So, with that in mind, we're going to leave those major projects until we meet next time. I am Kyle, this has been That One playthrough of Kerbal Space Program, and I hope to see you in the next episode as we begin to venture further and closer to landing on the moon and discovering some new faraway planets. Have a wonderful day.